Welcome to the Movement PT Coffee Cast, where we sit down and talk about physical therapy, health, and whatever else comes to mind during our coffee-infused conversations. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Movement PT Coffee Cast. My name's Dalton, and I'm coming at you with an EspressoCast. This is one of the two types of podcasts we do here at the PT Coffee Cast. If you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're coming back for follow-up listens, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. The EspressoCast is where myself or Will sit down. We'll talk about a topic. We'll talk about an experience or a thought that's come up throughout the week. And we also have our interview episode where we sit down with other healthcare professionals over a cup of coffee, and we talk about the state of the profession, where we can go, what we can do better, etc. We'll talk to physio, strength coaches, hopefully some psychologists as we go through. But those are the two styles of episodes we do. So today I'm coming at you with the EspressoCast. But before we get into that, guys, I just want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for the support. If you've ever reached out to us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, or left us a like, or subscribed to the podcast and dropped a review, thank you very much. If you haven't done that yet, we would greatly appreciate it. Specifically heading over to iTunes, subscribing to the PT Coffee Cast, dropping a 5-star review. One, it helps us move up the charts, helps us get to more people. It also is just awesome to see the positive feedback from you guys. We want to hear from you. We do appreciate it. It continues to push us to put out more episodes. Lastly, if you want to get some good coffee, click the link in our bio on Instagram. It'll take you to our website. You can grab a fresh bag of the original blend. It's a smooth, crushable coffee. I enjoy drinking it. I'm a little biased, but it's a pretty solid cup of coffee. If you want to make it, the best way I would say I've made it so far is the AeroPress. I've also done a pour over style, but AeroPress is by far my favorite. If you haven't tried the AeroPress, I suggest you try it out. You can get it on Amazon fairly cheap. Makes one of the most consistent cups of coffee that I've ever had. All right, let's get into this week's episode. So what I want to talk about this week it was kind of a topic that kept popping up throughout the week. It was a conversation I had with a client that I was working with. I saw it floating around on Instagram. And it's something that I've really I've thought about a lot and kind of gets me going in a sense with regards to just exercise and health. And this is kind of around the topic. I mean, we'll break it down a little bit. First off, I think overall, we've created this idea of fragility in our society, and I really think we need to start to shift our mindsets and the people's mindsets that we see on a daily basis to this idea of being resilient. I think for some reason we tend to forget how adaptable we are as humans, and something that I keep seeing over and over is this idea of like when I get an injury, or if I get an injury or I get older, that I can't do things, and we start to limit ourselves, and we're afraid to do certain exercises or even certain daily tasks like just jumping or going up and down stairs or different things like that, and I don't think we should be limiting ourselves in this way. And something that kind of brought this on to me was a conversation I had with a client who was basically labeling themselves because they were in a profession that required them to be very physically active, and quote unquote everyone in the profession has their injury that then sets them up for trouble throughout their whole career. That this injury that she was dealing with was the one that was her career, her injury, and now she's just got to live with it and basically deal with it for the rest of her time in this job. And we kind of sat down and had a conversation like, you shouldn't be limiting yourself in that way. Like, injuries are normal. People go through injuries. Your body is strong. It's adaptable. It's resilient. You can get better. Just because you have one injury and right now you're limited in some things does not mean that you're going to be limited later in life. And you can't compare yourself to other people's injuries or things that they've gone through, because it's totally different. It's always going to be different. You don't know what that person did. Did they commit to a rehab plan? were they seeing a professional that was, trying to actively get them back to what they wanted to do? Were they guiding them the right way? You can't compare yourself to other people. And I really wanted to just get across to her that, if you don't want to be limited, then you don't have to be limited. And obviously there are some circumstances where, where things are a bit out of your control, but with just some nagging injuries or some injuries that you're dealing with does not mean that you can't continue on. And she kind of started worrying about how am I supposed to do this career for the next 20 years? And I said, well, you got to just keep doing what you're doing. Like if you're working in a profession that requires you to be physically demanding, whether it's a factory job, whether it's a healthcare professional, whether it's a police officer, whether it's a paramedic, whatever it is, if you're in a job that's going to require you to be physically demanding and take on things in your daily life, then you should be prepared for them. And what can you do? You can strength train. You can always, improve your mobility and control and end ranges. You can work on your balance. You can work on many different things, your conditioning, to allow for you to be the most optimal that you can when you're on the job. And for some reason, I think we've gotten into this place, and it's unfortunate. I think it's society in general, and us as healthcare professionals, I think we need to do a better job of it, is this idea of just giving people, like, not giving people this hope. Like, people get to this point where they're like, I'm injured and I'm done. And it's like, no, you're not. That's not it at all. And the same thing kind of goes for aging. And you hear this a lot too, is where like people start, limiting themselves because they're, oh, I can't do that because I'm 40, or I can't do that because, I'm this age, and you don't do that at this age. And I think we need to start shifting this narrative to have people realize, like, no, you know what, you can do this at whatever age, as long as you're doing it appropriately and preparing yourself to go through it. And something that really brought this on to me was a Facebook post that I had saw of this older lady, and she was, I don't know how old exactly, but she looked like she was up into her 60s, and she was deadlifting, she was squatting, she was doing hip thrusts, she was doing all kinds of very demanding strength exercises. And it's not about how much she's lifting, but it's about the fact that she's actually, getting strong, and she's doing things that people at her age, quote unquote, should not do, which I don't think is true at all. But it doesn't even have to be as drastic as that. Something that I think, most people want as they age is the freedom, the autonomy. One of the things that you always hear is like, I want to be able to go where I want to go when I want to do it. And one way that you keep that autonomy is preparing yourself for it. So how do you do that? Like, I'm biased to it, but I really do think everyone should be doing some form of strength training, like, in the gym, or some types of resistance exercises at home. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Like, even whether or not you're older or younger, it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be as simple as squatting to a chair, or picking something up from the floor, or carrying something heavy across your living room, or getting up and down from the floor 5 different ways every day, or taking the stairs instead of taking the elevator. There's so many opportunities for us to maintain the abilities that we have, but for whatever reason we limit ourselves as we age. Like, people are like, well, I'm this old, I shouldn't be jumping. It's like, no, like, if you want to jump, you should just keep jumping. Like, it kind of gets it gets frustrating to hear, but it's not necessarily like people's fault. It's just this idea that we've been breeding, like, to people through health and fitness. And I really want to tell people that you don't have to settle for that. And one way that I think, if you're sitting here, you're listening to this, and, if you're training already and whatnot, great. If you're someone who's listening to this and you're like, I should start doing physical activity, but I don't really know how or the plan. Like, to be honest, one of the best ways to do anything in terms of, maybe setting goals or reaching something is to reverse engineer your way to it. So for example, like, if we're talking about longevity and you want to be able to be mobile enough to travel when you retire. So you want to do Europe trips, you want to go to Australia, you want to hike, you want to do all the fun things when you retire, then okay, what can you do right now? Let's say, whether you're 10 years from retirement, whether you're 3 years from retirement, whether you're my age and, hypothetically I'm quite a ways away from retirement, what can I do? Well, one, you can stay strong by doing basic strength training, squat, deadlift, carry things, push, pull. If you don't even do those things, it's okay, let's continue to walk every day. Let's continue to, if you don't have exercise equipment, instead of using my hands to get up from a chair, I stand up using my legs, or I do X number of sit to stands every single day. I get up from the floor 5 different ways every day. I take the stairs instead of taking the elevator. Instead of sitting down to put my shoes on, I stay on my feet and I put my shoes on. Doing some form of mobility program, whether that's like sustained stretching or just going through different ranges of motion, so that you keep them continuing to jump, hop, balance, etc. Like if those are all things that you're going to need to be able to travel, hike, and do all that, and you just reverse engineer it. So you take your options. Like one way could be find a personal trainer that you can strength train with 2 days a week. Then you could say, okay, I'm going to do my own physical, like cardio fitness, getting 150 minutes of, moderate to vigorous activity a week. You could say, okay, I don't want to get a trainer. I'm going to train on my own 2 times a week, strength train. And then I'm going to, continue with my cardio. Maybe again, you're not specifically strength training, which I think everyone should be. But if you're not, you're doing the things that we just talked about. Like there's ways to prepare yourself to do what you want to do. And I think as individuals, and I mean, I'm speaking for myself because I've been in this position before, but we need to start to take control of our own health and realize like, it's on you. Like, yes, we need to do a better job in healthcare professionals as promoting these things. We need to reach more people. We need to start promoting resiliency instead of this fragility mindset. But in the end, it comes down to you. It comes down to you committing to a program, you saying, okay, if I want to do this in my life, then this is what I need to do right now to be able to continue to do that. And if you can't, you need to kind of wrap it around your head and grasp like, looking into the future, like what do you really want? And I know it's hard because I've been there. Like I've recently kind of opened my mind, let's say taking a new growth mindset on mobility. I've been someone who's been, decently mobile, but not extremely, fluid through range. I've always limited myself and said like, that's just the way it's going to be. And over the last, let's say 6 weeks, I've committed to a mobility program 4 times a week that's been designed for me. And I've seen incredible increases in my strength through range, my ability to move through range, some pain that I've been having in the hip. And that's something that I limited myself in before. And I said, I can't get better at this, so I'm not even going to try. And that's just the wrong mindset to take. And I started to realize like, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to do with my training, or what do I want to do as I age? And I want to be, as I like age in my training age. And what I want to do is I want to be able to do things like triathlons. I want to be able to do squat, deadlift. I want to be able to do an Olympic weightlifting competition if I want to. And something that's going to help me be able to do that is being strong and having as much mobility as I possibly can. And I'm starting to realize that now. And that's something that I had closed my mind off to. And I thought that it was out of my control. And so just to bring that full circle is like, in the end, it's on you. It was on me to make that realization. It was on me to commit to that program, to hopefully in the future, have a benefit for me in the things that I want to do. So the same thing goes for you. Whatever it is you want to do, reverse engineer it, figure out the steps that you need to take, and start right now taking control of it and not waiting for the future to where you're unable to do the things that you want to do, or you start to just write yourself off because of the fact that you're aging or etc. All the kind of stereotypical things that you hear from society in general. yeah, I know I kind of a little bit of a rant. Maybe I was all over the place, but just to kind of summarize it and give you guys a couple takeaways that I want you to think about, and something that I want to continue to talk about and get across is number one, shifting our mindset to this resilient mindset and away from this idea of being fragile. We are not fragile. We are strong. We're humans. We have the ability to adapt. If you have an injury at one point, it does not mean that that's going to have a factor on you for the rest of your life. You can change it, and you can change it by starting to take control of it and seeking out healthcare professionals or people that are going to align with your goals. And you know what? You may not find that person right away, but you need to continue to pursue it because, one, there are people out there, and two, it's your life. And if it's really important to you, then it's worth the work. Second, reverse engineering what you want. So take what you want to get to in the future, reverse engineer it, and kind of come up with a plan on how you're going to start today to make sure that you're going to be able to do the things that you want to do in the future. So basically that is what I'll leave it with, guys. If you have any thoughts, comments on this, shoot us a DM at the Movement PTs at the MVMT PTs on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can send us an email, themovementpts@gmail.com. We're always open for discussion. We want to hear from you guys. These are topics that mean a lot to us, and would love to hear feedback. If you guys enjoyed this episode, or you've enjoyed any one of our episodes, head over to iTunes, subscribe, leave us a review. We'd appreciate it. It helps us grow. It helps us reach more people, and if you did like this episode, please share it with one other person. We want to reach as many people as we can. And lastly, guys, we love coffee. We came out with our own coffee blend. We want you guys to try it. We've gotten great feedback from people. It's delicious. It's easy to drink. It's crushable. It's called the Original Blend. Head over to our website. You can find that link in the bio of our Instagram. You can also find it in the show notes of this podcast. Grab yourself a bag. We'd love for you to try it. The support means the world to us. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you at that. Hopefully you enjoyed this coffee-infused rant. We love you. We hope all is well. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.